So over the past few years, we've really worked to do some, I think, creative things, particularly with two large grant programs, one from Lumina, one from United Negro College Fund, that are really focused on creating career pathways for students and to make sure that they're able to move through and get their degrees in a timely manner, reduce the amount of debt that they have, which is a huge issue for everybody, even people who want to fund higher education. And so we've been really working that we can provide additional support for the students through a better structured program. And then on top of that, what we've been doing is we've been trying to find out ways to help students who might have that additional gap, that they might need an extra $500 or $1,000. They're close to the finish line and running out of money. And we've been able to get outside groups and individuals to provide the institution with money to help those students out. And so that's really been a big player for us in terms of improving retention and graduation rates. So really working on the pathway, make sure that what they're learning in the class is relevant for the day, and then providing the additional financial support. It's really sort of been like a three-pronged approach, if you will. Moving our alumni giving rate from 4% to 21% in 5 years. The national average for HBCUs is about 8 or 9%. National average overall is maybe 12 to 15%. So to be really below, to go then where you're in a range where elite private institutions a lot of times are 24, 25%. So for us to be in that range is really good, because that speaks not just about what's happening on campus, but it's how our alums are feeling about what they're seeing happen at their institution. And so now they're becoming the biggest cheerleaders for the institution. And for the sustainability of all HBCUs, it can't just be waiting for somebody to come save us. Everybody's waiting for Oprah to give them X amount of dollars. It doesn't work that way. We've got to save ourselves. And so that's been the message that we've been giving to people. And not just to say, help us out and we're in trouble, because that hadn't been the issue. It's like, how do we move to another level? And so people are buying into that. And so that, for me, is one of the most important things. I guess the other thing I would say is that we identified 2 signature academic programs that have really taken off. Our physics program, which has really been good for a long time and nobody said anything about it. So to get it the national attention that I think it deserves. And then secondly, the film program, because we're in Hollywood South and New Orleans and watching a lot of the creative things that we're able to do there. But these are unique programs, and particularly for an HBCU, you don't have any HBCU that starts off and say our signature programs are physics and film. So that makes us a unique institution, 2 really strong programs, really good leadership. So those are some areas that I think we do extremely well. Being able to come here after 7.5 years at Philander Smith as president made the transition easy, because I had experience being a president. So it was just learning New Orleans, learning the culture of Dillard, and then applying some of the basic skills that I learned having served as a president. So now, I have 13 years of experience as an HBCU president, which puts me now in a small group of people, because people are retiring. So I'm moving on up in terms of that experience. But I think it's provided me with now over a decade of experience in terms of what's going on in our sector, what's happening in higher education, and how do I make sure that Dillard becomes a model, and not really just for HBCUs, but for small liberal arts institutions. How do we keep doing things that I think that are creative and progressive? So that's the opportunity. So just learning some of those things along the way, and then really looking for a team of people who want to be creative, and for us to be creative together and do all kinds of fun and exciting things, I think is very important. And then I think we become a model for lots of institutions. So I was the youngest HBCU president and one of like 30 college presidents under 40. Even in the HBCU sector now, there are probably 16 or 17 HBCU presidents younger than me. So I'm not even trying to play in I'm the youngest base anymore. I'm nowhere near that. But I think one of the things that have happened, and some of the younger presidents have said this, is that when I had an opportunity to be a president, I sort of realized that I had to do a good job, because I could mess it up for some other people. And so because we had great success at Philander Smith and continue to see that today, it's providing opportunity for some other people. And I've had people say that directly, like people are looking to see what would happen in that regard. And so for me, it gives me an idea that I have a broader responsibility, not just for the institutions, but for a new generation of presidents that will come behind. And then the other part of it, which is probably not necessarily a part of either Philander or Dillard, but just in terms of how I grew up as a preacher's kid, is that I think we see a vacuum of truth tellers in our space, and people aren't really challenging the issues of the day that HBCU presidents decades ago did. So for me, I feel like another burden to say you have to be the person to really speak up on some of the issues, which isn't always pleasant to do, but somebody's got to do that too. Today, our largest private source of funds comes from the United Methodist Church. So you have that connection, you have the connection with the United Church of Christ, and so those two denominations can provide support for the kind of work that we're doing on the campus. And particularly during the Katrina years, what we're trying to do now is have some more meaningful interaction on a regular basis with those denominations as well, in terms of students being involved in the denominations, in terms of our chaplain connecting with those churches, and then having a broader ecumenical perspective. So we are connected with all kinds of denominations as well. I think it's very important. So for us, I think in the last 5 years, there's been more of an emphasis to say, how do we uplift our church relatedness as a part of who we are as an institution? I think that may have dropped a little bit, particularly post President Cook, who was very active in the United Church of Christ. And then when he retired, he was in Atlanta, he would go to Methodist churches too. So he was much more of a connectional president, and we sort of lost that for a period of time. And so now, just based on my own experience, we've been really intentional to be much more connectional. The thing that is unique about Dillard is we're really trying to create a culture where people take initiative and you have an overall experience. So it's not just a place that you come, and because you can go anywhere and go to class, get a degree. It's got to be what kind of overall experiences. I guess he's still working journalist Bill Maxwell, who was with the St. Petersburg paper, and he spoke for me at Philander. He talks about, particularly for African American students, sometimes they lack texture, meaning they don't have some of the experiences that their white counterparts have, and that hurts them and doesn't make them as competitive for jobs or internships. And so that's something that he said early in my career, and I was like, that he's making a great point. How do I make sure a student at Dillard has the same kind of texture as someone at an LSU or any other place? And so what we really tried to do is create a space where we can bring in a range of people, so you just don't hear the same people, or what they call intellectual incest. You hear the same people over and over again. How do they get to hear voices from all across the country, and the leading voices, so that becomes a key part of their experience? And then how do you create an environment where people are free to be creative? So you can have the cheerleader coach pitch this idea to say, we want to do something with Big Free to have time for this basketball game. I was like, that's the kind of thinking we want. And then you have that clip that goes viral, and people all across the country are like, how did y'all make this happen? That's what Dillard needs to be, the place that is pushing the edges, being creative in all kinds of spaces, providing students with the broadest texture possible. I think that's what for a student, if you come here, that's the kind of experience that you have. Because you can go anywhere and just go to school. So what makes us different? And I think the kinds of experiences we provide both in and outside of the class separates us. The key message I would say is that we're making tremendous strides at Dillard. Really excited about what we're doing, but I think we still have to continue to have much more of a, we're going to take care of our own institutions mindset, particularly in this political climate. One of the things after the election in 2016, hip-hop artist David Banner, he put out this post. He said, this might be one of the best things that happen to black people. And people were like, oh, what are you talking about? He was like, no. I mean, people are going to have to be, more self-reliant. You need to read more. You need to learn how to be a better leader. He was saying, these are things I need to do. And so you have an artist out there saying, how do we take more responsibility in stuff that we say is ours? Because we like to say, this is our institution, but we expect the government to take care of us. Well, it doesn't really work like that. And if it's ours, how do we own it as ours? And so that's the message, is that we're seeing more people take ownership and say, Dillard is ours, and we're going to take care of that. And we've heard that message, here before in years past, but it's something that I think people are buying into, is that, yes, we need to, take care of ours, but we also are finding more people who are friends and allies who are excited about what they're doing. And they're buying in, and that's what you really want. When you start taking care of them, you're excited, then people who don't have any affiliation say, I want to be a part of that too. And then they own it. And then that's when you really start to see some change happen. So we want to make sure we continue to do that. So people without any affiliation say, I want to be a part of Dillard. How can I be a part? How can I give my resources to support this institution? And so that's the message for us, to keep doing what we're doing, because I think we're collectively doing a great job.